Welcome to Ep1, and this is our first update on the Land of the Giants snake kit. We've got some assembly done, and we started to do just a little bit of painting. The kit went together pretty good. Really not too many issues. I'm not putting it together in the sequence the instruction sheet say to, but because of how I want to do my painting, we're doing it a little differently. The instructions say to put the mouthpiece together in one half of the head, and then put the other half on and kind of glue it, to where you have your complete headpiece here. But I found that you can insert the mouthpieces after the headpiece is all put together. You put the top in first and then the bottom. So that's what we're going to do. I think it'll make painting this a little easier. Won't have so much masking to do as far as the mouth is concerned. So the head went together pretty good. Whenever you're dealing with a model kit where you have halves, always want to make sure that you knock off that sharp edge that you usually get between the halves. You want to round them off, kind of soften them up a little bit. That way the paint will go over it and pretty much cover your seam, so you don't have to worry about doing so much seam work as far as putty is concerned. The snake body went together pretty good. We got one area right here where the tail is that we're going to have to do a little bit of filler. I'm using the Vallejo acrylic putty, the water-based. They call it plastic putty. It's just an acrylic-based putty, so I'm using that right here, and I got a few more layers I need to add. Again, like the head, the body here where we have the seam of the two halves, we softened up, so our paint should cover that and be alright. I have a bit of a gap down here, but I'm not even going to worry about it because obviously the snake will be sitting on the base. You're not even going to see that, so I'm not going to worry about that all that much. And the snake will go on the base just like that. Kind of fits right on there. Also, too, I'm going to leave the head off until we get some of it painted, the body painted. Because when you put the head on, it blocks some of the body, and I just figure it'd be much easier to paint the body with the head off. I'll probably stop around here as far as the painting. And then once we get all the body done, then I'll go ahead and glue the head on and then continue on painting. So that's how we're going to do that. So we're doing it a little differently. The instruction sheet says to do it due to painting. Color palette on the snake. We're going to probably do it kind of sort of like the box art, not necessarily like that. The great thing about kits like this is that you can let your imagination go. You can pick whatever color palette you want and not be wrong. You can make the snake any color you want. It's just up to your imagination, so that's kind of cool. Those kind of kits are always fun to do. Or you can go by how real rattlesnakes are. You can either go with the gray family. Some rattlesnakes are grayish in tone, like charcoal, white, black, dark gray, light gray. Or some rattlesnakes are the kind of sort of similar to the box art, where they're not as dark as the box art, but they're like a medium brown and tans and dark brown. Or you can go that route, which is probably the route we're going to go. So we'll be using mainly craft acrylics on this entire build. Maybe some, be all acrylics, whether it's craft acrylics, Tamiya, or a Model Master, but it's all going to be acrylic paints. Our weather has drastically changed. We only had like 3 days of fall, and now it's winter. We got snow out there. It was down to 15 degrees last night, so painting outside is going to be over with until spring, if we have a spring, around April, March, April, probably April, the way things are looking. So anyway, the first color I mixed up, because I don't have, is a dark pink for the inside of the mouth. I didn't want a bright pink. I didn't want a hot pink kind of color. I wanted it dark. So I mixed up my own right here. This is a mix of a medium red, dark red, white, a little bit of black, and made my pink for the mouth. Now you have to bear in mind that with acrylic paint, it's always a darker when it dries. No different than when you paint your walls in your house, acrylic, latex, it always dries darker. This is the same way, no different. Dries about a shade darker than it is in the jar, what you mix up. So we thinned it, and you want to be careful when thinning acrylic, because if you thin it too much, then you break down the bonding agent of the pigment, and then what you get when you go to brush it on is basically big old things of fish eyes, because the pigment is so broken up. So it's you have to find that fine line between thinning it and going overboard and getting it to where it's crap. So this is mixed up perfect to use, whether we use an airbrush or a paintbrush. It's nice and thin, just where I want it, so we leave no brush marks. This is the upper mouth here, and this is the first coat, and you can see there's areas where I allowed to paint the pool. And I do that because that's going to give us our shading, in a sense. And then there's other areas where the paint, because it's a raised area, the paint is kind of washed off and lets some of that beige plastic show through, and I want that. We're not going to cover that up because what we're doing is we're getting our shadow and we're getting our highlights, so it gives the piece a little bit of a three-dimensional look, not so flat in tone. Whether if we just would have made a pink and completely covered everything up, but then we would have a little bit of a flat look to it, and this gives us some depth, some dimension by letting the paint pool up in the lower areas and kind of run off in the higher areas. We're going to leave that. The teeth, what I've done is I painted it here. This is 2 coats, and this is 1 coat. I want to show you the difference. The more coats you put on, the more complete coverage you get, but then you start losing your highlights in the shadow. So I think 2 coats is only going to be what we need for the mouth area. Because as I said, I want the cream to show through on the higher areas, and where the paint pools, where it's darker, that's what I want. The teeth, I just went back with a wet finger and just rubbed it over the teeth to remove the paint, so we don't have to go in there and paint each individual tooth. That'd be a pain in the ass. This is much quicker. So we're just letting this dry now. I need to add 1 more coat on this. This is 1 coat, as I said, and the bottom of the mouth is 2 coats, so you can see the difference. That's another thing too. When you thin your paint like this and put it on with a brush, you're not going to cover it in 1 coat. Don't think it's going to look beautiful just after 1 application. It takes a while to build up your paint, but the great thing is, you can see here, is you can't tell that was put on with a brush. So we're back, and we've got the inside of the mouth pretty much done. It's been installed in the head. You saw me put the pink on. What I did when the pink was dry was I went over the upper and lower mouth with Mod Podge. This is the gloss I got from the dollar store. And when that was dry, it wasn't glossy enough, I didn't think, so I hit it with Tester's Extreme Lacquer, the wet look lacquer. And I did it outside in 30-degree weather, so I wasn't too sure if it was going to work, but it seemed to be okay. So I'm glad I was able to at least shoot these small pieces with lacquer. But I think that's glossy enough for what I'm looking for. So what we'll do now is I might go back and use a little hot glue on the fangs to simulate the venom dripping off. The fangs, I left the plastic color. I was going to do an off-white, but I thought, well, you know what, this color is close enough to an off-white. I would have used a buttercream anyway. You never want to use pure white. That would be just like way too bright. So what I did do is take the Army Painter soft tone ink and go over the fangs a little bit to kind of discolor them a little bit, just to give them a little, not dirty look, but definitely didn't want a clean look on the fangs. So that's that. So that's one step painted and done. Pretty easy peasy, pretty fun. I did go to the dollar store. I did go to the dollar store and pick up a few things. One of the things I picked up for $1 are these side cutters. These are cheap, but I tell you what, these things have been cutting fantastic. I can't believe they cut better than my Tamiya ones, actually. So for $1, I can't beat it. I mean, they're cheaply made. Probably the handle will break before anything else, but I figure what the hell, for $1 at the dollar store. And then I got what else I get from the dollar store? I got another one of these holders, these acrylic holders, for $1. Whenever I see them, I always pick one up. These things work great. As you see, I have all my, maybe you can't see, but I have all my paints in them, all the Model Air paints, which I just recently picked up. All these Model Air, and then all my Army Painter, and then some of my older Vallejo colors, but they make nice paint holders for $1. So whenever I see them, I always pick at least one up for $1. So yeah, that's it for the head. I'm just going to leave that sit there for a little bit and continue getting this seam straightened out and start working on the body. So I think that's it for this update. Oh, I did get a safety pin too. I mean, the kit comes with a safety pin, but I thought a real one would be much better, so we're going to use a safety pin in place of the kit supplied safety pin, which is right here, which isn't bad. Here it is. It's pretty much the same size as the kit supplied one. So we're just going to replace it. But if I were to use this, what I would do is paint it black and then hit it with the Model Masters stainless steel and then polish it and go from there. But I'm going to use this instead. So, alright guys, I think that's it for this video. I think we've gone on long enough.